But what I'm going to show you is how I develop the loops. And what edge loops are, as you can see from the geometry on this particular character, that the geometry goes straight up and down. It's just squares. It doesn't conform or model the face of the character at all, like some of the fatty groups in the skin or some of the jaw lines or bone lines. And there's ways to do that and to design the geometry so that it can do that. It'll follow the contour and the surface contours of the face. Now, I'm just using right now different types of materials in ZBrush to bring out this particular look, so you can see the edge loops and the fatty areas. One of the techniques that I like the most is if you use colored pens, like going to the pen tool or a paintbrush tool and just circle edge loops. So I'm gonna just do like edges in there, like the corners of the mouth, the corners, the brows, and those other areas which define the contours, the surface of the face or the character of the face. Now there's a very basic edge loop schematic that I use, but and I'm going to use that on this one. But as we're doing this, I'm actually developing more stronger edge loops. Like I would like to just make edge loops that go around, like in this area. You see, as it goes through the nostril, the nasal labia fold, over the. Okay, sorry, I hit the button by accident. But as I was saying, the nasal labia fold and different areas in the bone structure, and there's ways to quickly outline it. And basically, you know, anything that you do that flows with this polygons, any polygons that you create that flows with the surface of the character is basically what will work out fine. I mean, there's a couple of areas that you want to focus on, like around the eyes and around the nose, and just like in this area here, like I like to create like a mask that kind of follows over the nose, over the eyes, around the brow, and things like that. So I call that like a mask. And then there's the one for the mouth, and it's just a circular and circle around the mouth and a circle around the eyes. Basically, anyone and the rest of them will like the nostrils, all the orifice in the face. So the eyes, the nose, mouth, the ears. Like the eyes, nose, mouth, and ears, doctor. You know, just make a circle around those, and then other areas of the face which follow the contour of the face. Now, I'm developing a different kind of system now, and it's actually because they don't have ZBrush for the Mac. ZBrush on the Mac. On the Mac. Hold on, let me turn the sound out just a little bit. Okay. I don't think that's going to help. And the sound on this, like I'm recording for the mic, it sounds a little tinsel. It's not my usual eyesight setup, but I'll just go with this. But anyway, as you can see, there's different schematics for the face, and it's very simple once you get used to it, you know, and from there, all the cross sections radiate from the mouth, like the corner of the mouth, besides the chin area, you know, it just radiates out from the circles. So it's very easy to do. But because this character is such a unique kind of form, it's not your average shape. And so I'm interested in building a lot more towards the surface of the face. Okay? But if you study edge loops, which I recommend that you do, just study edge loops on your own and develop your own kind of edge loop system, or just mimic the other ones that are out there. I mean, this is a developed, standardized technique, you know, that almost every artist use, almost every modeler or anybody who does facial animation. And a lot of them are even better than this one here. So this one, I'm sort of experimenting. There are certain areas that I haven't laid out. There's other books that are out there that have, any book for modeling a face have different formats and different layouts for each one of the edge loops. I like to always make that center line. Some don't. So some go directly from that one side of the polygon to the other one. I actually keep the symmetry tool on and just go down the middle, get it close, clean up the line later. It's not so. Um, it's important for me to have a line there, but the drawing, the actual paint, I'm doing a poly paint, and I didn't actually explain how I do this poly paint in ZBrush. One thing that you have to remember to do when you're doing a poly paint is to fill the object and make sure the texture is off. And ZBrush has two texture areas, which is on the right and the left side of the screen. And they added that in 3.0. The ZBrush have on the right side an extra texture palette because of the subtools. If you don't get that, it will just screw you up. You'll just be so, the color won't go on there. And even under the texture palette on the left side of the screen, if you don't have that, you will not be able to texture paint. So I sent them through hell because I just knew I wasn't doing anything wrong. But I was trying to do my old, take some of my old textures, and I couldn't put it on the model. Now, what you see me doing here is another technique that helps to develop this when I'm retopolizing the face. Now, let me say this, is ZBrush allows you to quickly draft out, model, or Z-SketchUp a geometry. So the reason why I like using ZBrush to develop a character or a form or any kind of face or anything like that, it allows you to quickly rough it all out first. Meaning you don't have to be concerned about the edge loops or the geometry which will form the shape. Actually, some of the modelers consider being concerned about those areas, those technical logistics of the geometry, as a hindrance or constraining factor when it comes to working with your character, meaning it can get in the way. So I like the ZBrush workflow because it just allows me to focus on the form, the sculpt, the digital clay, and then later come and add the technical issues, which is the edge loops. So this is how I would normally do this, and just take a red paint and put the little dots in where I'm going to snap or click each one of the vertices. Even if I forget a line, I'll add that. There's a great techniques by other artists that shows like that use different colors to, let's say, get the flatty parts, or a blue, like see I'm using a blue right now, that will help you get the fatty parts, or red for parts that are edge loops that are essential, or red for all the orifice loops, and then another color, blue, for all the incremental radial type of loops. So there's different ways of breaking it down, and you can break down the bone structure, the fat, and then come back and decide, once you have that, once you've designed it, is to add the red dots and things like that later. Now, the reason why I'm saying that is of concern is because every model is different. So this face will be different from another. What if he had, only one eye? So there's no specific 100% way to do every single face, because every face is different. So there are generic face, and yes, you can do a generic mesh, but in general, you're going to have some differentiations in the face. So so you can really beautifully design your edge loops based on your own character, your custom character. And so, but this is not really, it's not really thought of. And let me tell you, if I really were trying to design this and get the one that I really want, I would save this model and redo it again. Now here I'm going to show you a technique. Only problem is I clicked a button, and I got this like multicolor that I didn't know you can get in ZBrush. So I accidentally came on, and so it's doing blue on the outside and then red on the inside, and I'm trying to get rid of that. So that's a little error there, but I'll go ahead and show that because eventually I'll get it fixed. So let me, while I'm kind of struggling with this on a video, let me show you. Let me tell you how I came across this idea. And this is probably not new and something that other people use as well. But I thought about it. And the edge loop is actually, it's not just one loop. In certain terms, you can think of an edge loop as a row of polygons. So actually, if you take the four-sided polygons and then track that around a particular area, that would be called an edge ring. Okay, so here you can see in the yellow, I'm outlining an edge ring, not just a loop. And so then that gives you an idea of the whole quads. Now this is something that is going to be great, I think is going to be great in the new version of ZBrush 3.5, which we actually don't have. But you can actually draw the edge loops, paint the edge loops on, and ZBrush will take the geometry and mold it around the color of that edge loop you created. So applying that ideal, you know, this is how I am. Sometimes I want to get at this stuff so bad that I start developing myself and not really waiting on somebody else to get it. But just knowing that that technique can probably be applied, I basically tried to do it here. And so now I finally got the color right. So I got rid of all the color and I added it back on. But the nice thing about it is even if you have a section and you go through the different sections and cross over the sections, it will still cross over and give you a good pattern for your edge rings. And basically that's what it is an edge ring. So I think as the technology develops, they will have more and more ways of creating edge loops. So it's not quite automatic yet, but they are automating it. And so I do believe, you know, that eventually you will be able to just paint in the edge rings if it doesn't exist already. But even if you don't have it, this is a great way to kind of map out your edge rings, and you can quickly decide, you know, instead of just using one loop, you can make the thickness the way you want and pretty much decide where you want your rings to go, your edge rings to go. And so I'm just roughing it in, and it's sort of dawning on me, hey, this will work. Even in the areas where it's still white, so I'm just basically putting in the main areas that I like, even in the areas that I don't like the white areas that I wouldn't say don't like, but the remaining areas that are not a direct edge loop, they still will, you know, those are areas that I can just maintain. Now here, I'm actually starting to cross in other edge loops, and it works. It'll work. You'll see as it comes through that it'll work. So again, this is the first time I'm doing video voiceover. And this is a little promo that I'm doing to help promote the AVT Pro 3D site. And so here's a nice little technique. Now, by all means, that edge loop should still work, even though it crosses over the other ones. But I'm trying to be a bit mindful. And then what I'm going to do is go in with the black again and bring that back up. Now this is just a sample of the technique once I created it. And you know, for some people they don't care, you know, they rather not plan out their edge loops to this particular level. But it always helps me because when I go to retopolize it, I don't have to do any guesswork. It's just clockwork at that point. I can almost hand it off to somebody else, and then they can kind of, well, this is the basic edge loops I want, and then somebody else can go and take care of the rest of it. So I'm going over there, strengthening some of the edge loops that I feel are important. And again, like I wanted that ring from the eyes because of the way the character's face. I wanted the ring from the eyes, the flow of edges to go down and around the face. And actually, now that I've done it once, even though this was just a technique, I would probably be more specific with it and I will be using it again for like the body and stuff like that. So really, this is just a fast way, and now some people don't use this. They don't have to use it. They're very familiar about how they want to go with their edge loop, and some are just may want to be very articulate about how they are with their edge loops. So what I found that just because of the color coding, even when I'm working with the topology, and ZBrush doesn't have the most visible topology tools, what I do is often change materials when I'm retopping a character, and I will not be going and retopping on this. I will not actually do the retopology in this tutorial. There's other tutorials that are available for that. But as you can see, I'm outlining the edge loops and maintaining the ones that are important to me. And it serves as a visual roadmap. So the color coding, I found that color coding for most things just are very effective. Still, even with this, it's good to know how and what edge loops are important. So when I did it the first time, I'm still understanding my workflow of how I want those edge loops. So you make the edge loops one way and then you radiate out through those. Now this is something that I would have loved to know how to do 10 years ago, and it really took me that long before I really fully understood it. I remember a digital 3D artist magazine that came out when like the games for Star Trek first came out, and there was a cover that had a Spock. I think it was Blur Studios. It had Spock and Captain Kirk, and they had, to make the circle, and I just couldn't figure it out. I was doing it for Z. As you can see here, that it is just really, you can tell exactly where you want all your edges. It's so clean. Even my red dots are in there, and I'll take the time sometimes and really paint up the lines. And so you can see that orange, that mauve, color one mauve, it flows straight through. Even though the red one crosses through the intersection of it, it doesn't matter because the flow is still the same. So when I come back with the lines, it really helps. Now here I'll probably do some red dots to even help, or even go further up in the rest of the character, I think is what I'm going to do. So basically this is the face. And it's a very clean, very, very solid roadmap of where I want to use this stuff. Now I'm going to stop this for a second while I'm starting the other one. I'm going to start, I got that noise reduction on it. I think it's making some weird sounds. So